Hello everyone, hope you're keeping safe and staying well. I'm really looking forward to seeing Carndona and Malin on Sunday. Really enjoyed my time being back in the pulpit in Moville and Greenbank, and looking forward to joining with you in person worship this coming Sunday. So I hope to see you there then. The other Sunday we had John Graham opening up God's Word for us, and he was preaching. He was looking at Mark 10, at this interaction that Jesus has with a rich man. And John was asking this really important question: what does it mean to be a disciple of Jesus? Now, there are loads of things that we could say to answer that question. We could go to Matthew 28, what's known as the Great Commission, look at Jesus' final words there, how we're meant to be disciples who make disciples, how we're meant to go into all the world telling people what Jesus has done, teaching them to obey and baptizing them. Or we could take some time, we could look at Paul's letters, his instructions for Christian households and Christian living, how we're meant to be disciples who are holy and set apart, different and distinguishable from the rest of the world. John took us somewhere else though, and it's actually a really important place, somewhere we all need to go before we start to look at those other things. Where was it that John took us? Well, John took us to our hearts. And John took us there because that's where Jesus takes us. So let's just take some time tonight and press pause and ask the big toddler question: why? Why our hearts? Why does Jesus start with the heart? Well, why don't you take some time, maybe follow our normal pattern, and just think about that for a moment. Press pause here. Read that passage in Mark 10. And ask that question. Why does Jesus start with the heart? Well, Jesus starts with the heart because discipleship, the disciple's life, starts with the heart. In fact, everything starts with the heart. The heart in biblical terms isn't just warm, fuzzy feelings. The heart is our causal core. It's our command center, our control center. The heart is our motivator. It makes us do things. To put it simply or another way, we do what we love. People say follow your heart, but the reality is that we do follow our hearts. We follow them regardless. We follow them because if we love something, that's what we'll rush to. If we love something, that's what we'll do. If we love someone, that's who we'll want to be with. That's who we'll follow. So Jesus starts with the heart because he knows all of that. He knows that if the heart isn't there, then it's empty and hollow. Because you can do all of the right things, but you can do them for the wrong reasons. And if that's the case, the right things done for the wrong reasons, they're wrong. And Jesus knows that following him is futile. Without a heart that's focused on him and fueled by him, and more than that, he knows that you won't follow him unless your heart is in it. Don't we say that to people? Don't we say it about ourselves? Maybe our heart wasn't in something, that it was only lackluster, we didn't really want to do it or be there. The same is true with the life of a disciple. If the heart isn't in it, it's nothing. After all, look at this rich man in Mark 10. Look at what happens. He goes away sad because his heart loves something else. Something else that really is the thing he loves most of all. And the cost of giving it up is too much for him because his love for it is too great. So Jesus starts with our hearts. He starts with our hearts because that's where discipleship, the life of a disciple, comes from. Loving Jesus is the foundation and fuel for everything. And loving him means loving what he loves. Wanting to please him, wanting to do the things that he wants. And since he wants his family to come to him and others to come to know him and come to obey him and follow him, well then, if our hearts aren't in love with him, we won't do it. We won't follow ourselves, and we won't bring others to follow him either. And of course, we may be scared to follow Jesus, and we may be terrified at the thought of bringing others to him. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about desire and motivation, not ability or opportunity, not the absence of fear. We're talking about what Jesus wants from his people and why he wants that, and how he wants that to be fueled, and how all of it comes down to the heart. It may sound cheesy, it may sound corny, but what Jesus wants is people whose hearts are in love with him. How can that happen? Well, Jesus starts with our hearts because he wants our hearts. But the how of how this can happen is through how Jesus shows us his heart and gives us his heart. The words pass us by quickly, but look at Jesus' heart on display in verse 21 of Mark 10. Jesus' posture towards this man. Jesus looked at him and loved him. That's Jesus' heart on display here. And we see it on display throughout all of the Gospels as he looks on people with compassion. Looks on them with compassion because they were like sheep without a shepherd. Or how he invites the weary and the heavy laden, the burden, to come to him. Or how if we go on further through the Gospels, where do they take us? They take us up a hill called Calvary. And we watch there as soldiers hammer nails into Jesus' hands and lift him high. And how on a cross Jesus cries, "It's finished." How his side is pierced as he's dead and he's buried. And there's his heart. His heart on display, and how Jesus does that for the sake of his family. And that's the heart that's meant to grab hold of ours and cause us to love. Love, the most powerful thing in the world. The love of Christ shown for us, and now in response, is a thing that's meant to motivate and fuel what God has called us to be and to be part of and to do. The Bible is constantly forcing us to try and realize and recognize what God has done for us and then to respond. Trying to get us to see his great love, his care, his compassion, how he's made the first move. He's initiated contact in mercy and grace and reconciliation and love. And to make us see how our hearts have been hard towards him, but how he can change that. And how when he does change that, we're meant to be different and called to be different, and how that starts with our hearts. So when it comes down to asking the big question that John focused in on and that Jesus revealed to us, it comes down to, what do you love? Who do you love? Where's your heart? Who sits on the throne there? John showed us that one of the ways to look at our hearts was to ask the big question we asked at the start, to ask why. Why are you doing something? What's motivating you to do that? That motivation will show off what we love. Show off whether we're doing it for ourselves or we're doing it for Jesus. Why is a great question for us to ask. It's great because it helps keep our eyes and our hearts focused, and also helps us keep our lives dependent. Because when we see why we do something, we might see that the motivation isn't good or godly. And then that will make us turn to God for forgiveness and for his help. Another way to open up our hearts and see what we really love is to look at your diary, your bank balance, and your mind. Because what you love, you'll give your time to. What you love, you'll spend your money on. And what you love, you'll think about. And maybe that's where you need to start. Maybe that's where you need to start as you look at your heart. Maybe you need to start by looking at what and who you love before you even move on to the why. Maybe there are things that need brought into order, put in their place, taken off the throne. But as you do that, remember this quote from Tim Keller. If you uproot an idol in your life and you fail to plant the love of Christ in its place, the idol will grow back or be replaced with another. That's why we start with our hearts. But we start with them after seeing and receiving Christ's great heart for us. All of our hearts are broken. All of our hearts are bruised. They're torn, they're tattered, they're divided. We have all loved other things, other people, more than Jesus. But may it be that his great love for us transforms our hearts afresh to start with our hearts as he has. Because being a disciple of Jesus, it begins with the heart. So let's start there and see who and why we love Jesus. And then have Jesus be the reason, the motivation, and the fuel for everything he calls us to do and everything he calls us to be. Take care. Stay safe. See you Sunday. And God bless.